So we just talked about how a complex number has both a real and an imaginary part, and that we can graph them on a real and imaginary axis. Now for a complex number, you have what's called a modulus. A modulus is the distance that the complex number is away from 0, 0. So it's similar to the radius, called the modulus. You also have the angle that it makes with the positive x-axis, which we've been calling theta. Another name for it with complex numbers is called the argument. So once again, you have the modulus, that is like the radius, or how far away the complex number is from 0, 0. And you have the argument, which is the angle that the complex number is at, away from the positive x-axis. We can also take complex numbers and change them into polar. So to do that, you actually use the same two equations that we were using earlier in the week. You have the radius equals the square root of x squared plus y squared, and you will also have theta equals inverse tangent of y divided by x. Make sure that when you're doing theta, you're also placing it in the appropriate quadrant. So let's do an example. If you have a complex number such as -2 plus 2i, the -2 is the real part, so that's your x, and the +2 is the imaginary part, that is your y. So we're going to go ahead and plug that into our equation. R equals the square root of x squared plus y squared. So R equals the square root of -2 squared plus 2 squared. So you get the square root of 4 plus 4, which is the square root of 8. And we can't simplify that or take the square root of 8, so just leave it like that. Now next, you're going to find the argument, which is theta. So theta equals inverse tangent of y divided by x. Remember that your y is the imaginary part, so it's 2 divided by the x, which is -2. So theta equals the inverse tangent of -1. And you would look on your unit circle, where is tangent equal to -1? That is at 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. So we need to determine which one of those we want. Well, -2 plus 2i, if I was to graph that, that would have a negative x and a positive y, so it would be in the second quadrant. So I'm going to use 3 pi over 4 because that's also in the second quadrant. So to write this out, you actually will have I need a pen. There we go. Green. You're going to have the square root of 8 parentheses cosine 3 pi over 4 plus I sine 3 pi over 4. Now that's a lot of stuff to write, so the abbreviated recognized version of this is to do the square root of 8. And then they write kiss, and they actually spell it. Not like kiss, but it sounds like kiss. They have the C, and then IS. That's the abbreviation. So square root of 8 CIS, or square root of 8 kiss. And then you put in 3 pi over 4 because that's the angle. So we can actually just write our answers this way if you prefer.